Hi guys, today I want to show you how to make this navette shaped stone setting. So it's basically a type of tension setting because the stone is wedged in between two sections of wire, and it's a really versatile little setting that can be used in many different designs. So if you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to subscribe because I upload new ones all the time. So here we are. So that's what the finished one looks like. So the length that I have used is about 25 centimeters, which is around 10 inches. But obviously, depending on what you intend to do with yours, you need to adjust the length for that. So the way I'm doing mine here is I'm going towards the left-hand side, roughly about a third in, and I'm bending the wire slightly. And then what I'm doing here is shaping the wire to roughly fit the outside of the navette. Now obviously the stone needs to sit on the wire slightly, so you need to make sure it's just a tiny little bit smaller than the stone itself, so that when you're wedging it, it has a little bit of a sort of plateau to sit on. So then next, once you've gotten the shape, we are going to bend the tip. So for that, I recommend some fine nose pliers because you don't want a massive sort of bend at the top. So I'm going to bend it round and then just shape it until you are satisfied. It needs to meet up with the bend at the bottom. So then reference it, get back against the stone. So once we've done that, we are then going to shape the wire. What we need to do is basically kind of step down the wire. So we're bending the wire at a 90-degree angle, and then what we need to do is again bend the wire at a 90-degree angle and at a width that is roughly big enough to house the stone, but will still give it some tension when placed in between the two sections of wires. So I think mine is roughly about 3 millimeters or so. You're going to have to reference that back against your stone because obviously yours is going to be different from mine, so it all depends on the stone you have, so you need to double check that. So what we're doing next is basically follow the shape that we have created at the top. So we're following that line, move it along, and make sure that when you get to the tip, we are then going to bend the wire around again. Now just make sure that you line up what you do at the bottom to the top so that everything is kind of symmetrical. Obviously this will then show off later. There's a top and the bottom, so I'd always try and work as neatly as I can, but obviously, you know, the bottom will probably be hidden in your design depending on what you do with it, but I always try and work as neat as I can. So just take your time with that and then it will look all right. So that's the basic shape, and then you can take your stone and reference it back against the shape itself and see if it fits, and that's roughly about okay. And you can see already the tension will hold the stone in place, and that's what it looks like. So next we're going to bring in our weaving wire because obviously the stone at this stage would still fall out. So I'm cutting a good length of my wire. This is 0.4, which is your 26 gauge, and I'm wrapping the legs, the sort of one tail end around the legs to hold it in place while I'm weaving, so it doesn't actually spring open and the stone will fall out. It's not tight yet, so the stone can fall out, and it probably will while you're weaving, but you can always pop it back in. So what I'm doing here is just a very simple 5 times wrap around the bottom. So let me warn you, this is a very fiddly business to do this, but once you get sort of halfway around, it gets much better to do. So just wrap your wire around the base. Now a little tip that I found that helps is if your wire, obviously your stone is wedging against the wire, if you're having trouble to feed you weaving wire through, grab a piece of thicker wire and kind of wedge it in between the stone and the frame. That gives you a little bit of a gap to be able to feed your weaving wire through. Otherwise, try and do it like me here. I'm feeding it through the tip of the frame, because there's a little bit of a gap usually where you can feed your wire through, and just be very careful when actually feeding the wire, because if the wire gets pulled against the stone in the frame, there's chances that it will get damaged and then it will break, because obviously it's brittle then. So just take care with that and try not to kind of squeeze the wire, if that makes any sense, through the gap in between the frame and the stone. So once we've done about 5 times around the bottom, I'm going to come up to the top like so, and all I'm doing here is I'm going around it once and then twice, just because I don't want a full coverage of the top, because I think it looks better when there's a little bit of a gap in between the weave. I quite like that look, but obviously you can then cover the full wire as well if you prefer to do, so you can do your sort of 5 wraps at the top and your 5 wraps at the bottom, so that the whole wire top and bottom is covered. It's up to you. So once I've gone twice around the top, I'm going to go back down to the bottom. So that's what it looks like a little bit further on, and you can see once you've gone around the tip and the frame, it gets so much easier. And then you can also start by just looping your wire rather than having to thread it. So it's basically the whole process is exactly the same throughout the design. So rather, when you get to the end, you can weave rather than thread. So once you've done that, all we need to do is join those 2 wire sections together, and you can see me here using a needle to help me get a little bit of a gap in between, because obviously the weave is quite tight. This really helps to open up, and then all I'm doing here is joining the 2 ends together. So really simple to do, but this will just help to keep the wires together, because obviously there's a chance that if you don't do that, the wire gets distorted at some point and the stone will just fall out. So once you've done that, that's the setting done and ready to be incorporated into your designs. So thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe, because I upload new videos every week. Why not visit me on my Facebook, TikTok or Instagram on imbalicrafts, or have a look at my website, because I do sell a lot of kits for all of the tutorials I make. So if anything grabs your fancy, go and have a look. We do have a fun little crafters or wire weavers group, which is called Wirewrap and Jewelry Artists Worldwide. We always have some fun projects going. There's lots of inspirations and we're a real fun bunch, so come and join us. That's it. So thank you so much.